Hi everyone. Hello. I know it's been a while. Like I said in my last video, I have limited access to my basement at this point in time. It won't last forever, but it is what it is. And today's video, we're going to go over a few things. I got quite the list, so definitely hang out. And everybody keeps on asking me one thing, where I got this shirt. I don't know. It's like 10, 15, maybe even 20 years old. I don't remember where I got it. And I see everybody's asking me about this right here. A lot of the readers these are popping up all over the place and on their walls. That was actually this last Halloween, when you went to the Halloween stores for the costumes and stuff, they had them. So I have a feeling that, of course, we all head to the Halloween store. We all picked one up. And it's kind of funny to me where I see my community and everybody's thing in their back has one of these. So yeah, we're pretty much one and the same. Anyways, all right, thanks. And stick with me. All right, so first up is Scott Perry. So Scott Perry, here's the story. He had his cell phone confiscated. The FBI confiscated, but he put that into the courts. Like, there's so much stuff on there. There's campaign stuff on there. You can't use it. You can't use it. You can't use it. So he has literally jammed up this January 6th investigation due to the fact that he has so much information on his phone that they need for the investigation that he's jammed this up. So just recently, and I was watching somebody talk about this. I don't forget who it was. Anyways, they said that they had just released it, that most of that stuff on your phone they can look at, and a lot of that was just BS. Like, you're just full of it. And so they now can look at the contents of what is on his cell phone, so that the January 6th can go forward. There's so many things behind the scenes. Glenn Kirshner explains it better, so go check him out, and he talks a lot about this. But I want to see what the cards have to say and the impact of what is in the contents of this man's cell phone and how it's going to move this January 6th thing forward. That's what happens. You see, behind the scenes, things get jammed up. This is one of them. Is the reason why things take so long. So frustrating. But here we are, right? All right. Let's see what we got. I think I'm going to use these guys. See? Scott Perry and the contents of his cell phone. I'm going to do a Celtic cross and see what's going on. First up, painful. Painful. He also asked for a pardon. Painful for him. Ooh, then we have, of course, the Five of Swords on top of that. So lying, cheating, stealing, manipulating. So this guy is such a winner. Winner, chicken dinner. The world is watching. That is, trying to take over the world. The world comes up a lot with these guys. And I think it's that grandiose, big, huge idea of I want to take over the world type of thing. And that was at the base of him. Like, his whole thing was, we were almost there. We could have been in charge. Yeah. He was probably promised a pretty good position, just like Kevin McCarthy had to promise everybody positions and stuff like that. in order for him to be in charge. That's probably what happened. So I also get the Hermit on top. Yeah, trying to shut it down. I don't want nobody to know what was on my phone. Oh, please, please, please don't. No, please, 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 please don't let anybody know. It's going to ruin us. Judgment coming in to the whole situation. So there is a renewal and outcome that is going to happen due to the fact that they were able to get into his cell phone. The burden, the hard work, and the completion going forward. Well, isn't that interesting? Is this going to be the kind of the last trail end of all of this going to be wrapped up? Wouldn't that be phenomenal? The Emperor. Success, recognition, temperance, economy, everything going further, the burden, the hard work, and the completion going forward with his cell phone. The Emperor, the authorities get to look at it. The energy, the inspiration behind all of the stuff that they were worried about, I think it's true. They're going to find some seriously good evidence. And then we have public recognition, as in public recognition, public success, public self-confidence that made their investigation stronger. And then we have temperance. Temperance, meaning balancing everything out. And I know when temperance comes up in legal matters, it talks to the whole thing of equal, balancing it out, handing out rightful justice, handing out the rightful information, and things like that. So that's temperance underneath that. Let's see what Chariot. It's going to move the investigation farther. It's going to move it forward. Yay! And what's else? The satisfaction. They have a lot. So I think this was one of the things behind the scenes that we really didn't know about until a judge ruled, and she let her rulings be public, that was one of the jams. That was one of the cogs in the wheel that was jammed in these type of investigations. So yay on that. Okay, so next up is, if you haven't been on TikTok, I watch TikTok, so you don't have to. I understand a lot of people do not want to do that. I get that. But there is a guy on TikTok, and I'm going to play a little bit of his information. In fact, all of the rest of them, I'm going to play a lot of his information. This is Rep. Jeff Jackson out of North Carolina. He's a Democrat who has made it his job to get onto TikTok and to explain a lot of things that's going on in Congress, like his first day there and things like that. But he went over and explained a lot about the bank failure. And I know that Biden just spoke about it, that all of them get their money back and things like that. And he's asked Congress to do a hearing to figure out what happened. But he has a lot of information about that. So
it's about 2 a.m. and I just wanted to bring you up to speed on everything that's happened tonight, because you're probably seeing a lot of headlines right now. Earlier tonight, there was an emergency Zoom call with several hundred members of Congress. It was convened by the Treasury Department, and we were given about 15 minutes notice. It was literally on regular Zoom. I was sent a link, I clicked the link, and most of Congress was there. That's not normal, but neither is the situation. The purpose of the meeting was to announce extraordinary steps that will now be taken to secure our financial system. You're going to hear from the president today, along with leaders of both parties, but here's what's happening. 3 days ago, we had the second largest bank failure in American history. It happened because there was a bank in California called Silicon Valley Bank. It lost a lot of money, causing a lot of its customers to get scared and try to withdraw their money, and it caused a run on the bank. So the federal government, through the FDIC, stepped in and closed the bank. Here's the problem. Typically, your deposits in a bank are only protected up to $250,000. But the vast majority of customers at this bank had deposits more than that, because this bank specialized in startups and small businesses. And the uncertainty about what would happen to customers with more than $250,000 in deposits started to spread to other banks. A New York bank failed last night. Others have started flashing red. Basically, people with money at smaller banks were getting scared and transferring their money into bigger banks, and we were in the early stages of a domino effect. Which brings us back to the emergency Zoom call. All the depositors at the Silicon Valley Bank will be made whole. Same with the bank in New York. We're going to pay for that with the fund that banks already pay into, not with taxpayer money. And the people being protected are just the depositors. These are mainly businesses that otherwise would have to close and lay off thousands of people because they chose the wrong bank. We're not protecting the management or the people who own stock in the bank. Right now, every step being taken has one purpose: to make sure this domino effect ends now. We caught it early enough so that taxpayers won't have to pay. We can pass the bill on to the banks. As long as this panic stops here. There's going to be a huge political debate now about bank regulation and how much risk we're willing to let them take going forward. Good. Clearly, we have to make some changes. But today is about not sinking the boat that we are all in. You can be angry at all of this, so long as you know that your deposits at your bank are protected because the full weight of the federal government has decided they will be. You need to hear that, you need to know that it's true, and you need to share that message so that we can make sure this becomes a political debate and not a financial crisis. And for anyone who follows me, I promise to keep you posted.
I want to kind of give it a deep dive on the other side of what's going on. Is there somebody trying to sabotage our country? Is it that bad? You know what I mean? Their favorite thing to do, especially on the Republican side, is to destroy us so that they can rebuild it to their liking. So I'm going to kind of do a reading and see what comes up. I don't quite understand completely about the bank thing, but Rep. Jeff Jackson, he explains it pretty good. I understood a little bit more, but I want to do a cold reading of that. What's that? The first up is Page of Cups. And the Page of Cups is that creative opportunity and an initiative message, that creative opportunity. Now it kind of goes back to my first thought. Is there somebody trying to sabotage that creative opportunity? Where else would they go, right? Like the wealth and finance and the security and the family and the long-term success happened over top of them. So whoever it was that's trying to sabotage us, we had a whole bunch of roadblocks that they had to come across, or they did come across, that they weren't as successful as they thought they were going to be. Queen of Swords, independent, somebody independent from our country. See, my gut tells me something. I also got an Empress, so I got the Queen of Swords and an Empress. So doggies. So the Empress, the intuitiveness. Let me see, going into it again. The sun came in inverted, which is same in the lesser sense. So if the sun is inverse, so that is going in like a Trojan horse, whoever this is or whatever this entity is, trying to take down, I think, yeah, going in like a Trojan horse. Going forward, Hangman. Wisdom. So we're gaining wisdom on how they got in, gaining wisdom on what happened, gaining all of that. So they're getting a different perspective, and they're gaining the intelligence from what had happened, and it's going to be rested. So this is going to be, they're going to rest that. It's going to be taken down. Then we have the King of Pentacles. The wealth comes back. Everything is going to be okay. We have stingy, meaning that we're going to hold on to our money, that the money gets hold on to. Stingy, collectively, everything's going to be fine. We're going to still be able to do that. And then they're going to take action against whoever or whatever tried to get in. I do believe I don't think they're saying it right now, but I do believe in the future. I just saw a ball lobbed into the future. That's how I know that something's going to happen or something's going to be said in the future, that they may find out, and we may get to know that it was definitely like a terrorist attack. In a sense of that, and they have now new barriers and new ideas and a new solution on how to make sure that that doesn't happen anymore. And of course, the King of Cups, and Biden is going to sign them into law. There you go on the bank thing. Hope that helped. All right, so the war in Ukraine. And Rep. Jeff Jackson talks a little bit about that too. Here he is.
I'm a new member of the Armed Services Committee, and I've spent the last few weeks learning everything I can about the war in Ukraine. I've spoken to generals, Pentagon officials, and some folks very close to the ground. Now that I'm reasonably well informed, it's time to report back on what's about to happen in Ukraine. And yes, everything I'm about to tell you is unclassified. Both Ukraine and Russia are about to launch major spring offensives. Russia's already begun theirs to some extent. They've been focused on the city of Bakhmut, but Ukraine is waiting for thousands of its troops to finish getting the upgraded equipment and training that they're receiving at NATO bases all across Europe as we speak. Most people believe this will be the decisive phase of the war. Both sides will try to deliver a knockout punch over the next 6 to 8 months, and neither side starts in a dominant position. Russia will have the advantage of more troops, but Ukraine will have basically every other advantage: training, equipment, morale, allies. Most importantly, Russia still doesn't have air superiority, which means they can't fly planes over Ukrainian forces or they'll be shot down. Not by Ukrainian Air Force, but by its air defense artillery, which has played a crucial role in allowing Ukrainian troops to have freedom of movement on the ground. That's why air defense artillery is still the #1 piece of equipment that Ukraine is asking for. It is their top priority, followed by regular artillery and then armored vehicles. And according to Ukraine, after those priorities, then it's fighter jets. They've requested F-16s, but the concern is that the quickest we could probably get the planes, maintenance teams, spare parts, and trained pilots in place would probably be next year. Ukraine's best offensive hope right now is the influx of tanks and armored vehicles from its allies. These are Leopards, Challengers, Abrams, Bradleys, and Strykers. But learning to use these vehicles to their full potential means learning a completely new way to fight. It takes a much higher level of coordination to synchronize the use of artillery, armor, and ground forces. It's called combined arms warfare, and it's the crux of how Western forces fight. Ukrainians are getting a crash course in that training right now, and then they're going to have to turn around and put it to use on the battlefield immediately, which is not ideal. But they'll be going up against Russian troops that just got drafted and thrown into this war against their will with very little training and much older equipment. Russia is taking tanks out of reserve storage from the Cold War. They are so short on tank commanders that there are reports of medics operating tanks. Russia's also running low on artillery shells and is turning to China for more. We have intelligence that indicates China is considering supplying Russia with artillery shells and other military equipment. If they do, it will be a huge international problem for China, which they know well, and that's why it hasn't happened yet. And Russia has kidnapped thousands of Ukrainian children and paid Russian families to adopt them and even change their names so they can't be found by their families after the war. Add this to the long list of Russian war crimes so far. Many of you have asked how much we've spent helping Ukraine. It's roughly $113 billion, which is about 2% of everything the federal government spends in a year. I'll keep you posted.
So we all know the reason why we're over there. We're trying to hold on to democracy and things like that. And we all know that the Republicans are fighting against anything and everything that has to do with Ukraine. We all know this. However, I just heard a report that today or yesterday or today was the biggest loss for Russia. It was over 1,000 soldiers that they had lost. The more than like back in February, they had a big loss of 10,000. And so, and they're only giving like the soldiers from Russia like 4 days of training or less, and they're putting them out to fight. So they're not being trained correctly, and he's just trying to show numbers, and so he's losing. And so the Ukraine is still very, very ahead of the game here. And Russia is definitely losing. So I want to do another reading on that. I know that I did a remote view a while back, which talked about the cord cutting ceremony that we're watching in full public to watch. So that's just a different perspective of spirit and what's really going on. And Russia advancing, not wanting to get the cords cut, but Ukraine is cutting cords. They're still there. So let's do a reading and see how that is coming along. We have all of us in this whole community has seen an ending coming, but we all know that we just don't get a very correct perspective on timing. I wish we did, but I don't, and a lot of people don't. So what I see as an ending doesn't mean it's going to happen next week or next year. Sometimes we get a little bit of a clue, but things change so often that Spirit's in charge. Hands down. So let's go. Let's see what we got. So the first up is the saving money and stinginess, holding on to our country. Oh, I bet that's Ukraine. Holding on to our country. And then I also have the compromise, or the people who are helping them. So it's not just us. So the Republicans get all kinds of pissed off about it, but you know what the truth is? We're not the only ones helping them. So whatever. We're not the only ones helping them. So always remember that when the Republicans are starting to get on your nerves and discount that, remember we're not the only ones. They also have help from around there. And we also have newly formed ideas. They are gaining perspective. They have new ideas. They have new money. They have new equipment. The best thing is that Ukraine has maintained a safe airspace because they have these machines that shoot down all the aircraft that come into their area. So that means that Russia has never been able to really advance into Ukraine with aircraft. So that's one of the machineries that they ask for the most to help them out in their war, and it has proven to be incredibly valuable. And abandonment, withdrawal. They want Russia to abandon this and withdraw. They want them. This is their mind. This is going forward with Ukraine. This is their idea. This is what they want. This is what they're heading for, is for them to stop. Yeah, coming right into the conversation, they're dealing with the devil. They're literally dealing with the devil. So going forward is that creative charm. You know how the Ukraine people, they were very smart. They're very creative. They're very funny. They're very they use any tool that they have possible. They were in there. Outside issues, the lying, the cheating, the stealing, of course, all of the negotiations, whatever. Russia's like, well, give me some of your property and I'll stop the war. And Ukraine's like, you're a funny man. We're not giving up anything. We will not give up any of our land to you, because to them that would be a failure to give up on anybody in Ukraine. So the high priestess, secrets, that's really interesting. So high priestess kind of has that secretive, mysterious, behind the scenes. They have a good idea of what they're doing, and they're not trying to announce all of their maneuvers, which is good. So Ukraine's really advancing in that. And judgment, the whole world's judging them. This is the 12th house, and this is the 11th house, to where Russia will have to abandon ship, transform, change this rite of passage, releasing the baggage. So that's really good. And then the teamwork after that. So in Ukraine, again, I don't have a time frame, but all of this is still very, very good for them. And I've been following it, even though it's kind of gone out of the media, but I've been following a lot of the information about Ukraine. I get random updates as to how they're doing. So yay for Ukraine. Let's get this done and over with. Let's end. Okay, so the next up is the debt ceiling. And again, I have Rep. Jeff Jackson right here. Who's going to explain it?
What happens when you make a promise that you can't keep and the entire economy hangs in the balance? The biggest political fight of the year is going to be about the debt ceiling. We have about 6 months to reach an agreement on this until we default on our debt, which would cause a huge recession and probably a global financial crisis. So, 2 countries in the world have a debt ceiling, Denmark and the United States. We've hit ours. That means we can't borrow any more money unless we raise the debt ceiling, which would let us borrow more. Meanwhile, we're still spending more than we take in, and in about 6 months, we won't have enough money to cover our bills, at which point we have a few choices. We could not pay our bills, that's default, or we could raise the debt ceiling to keep borrowing, or we could balance the budget by raising taxes or cutting spending or some combination. Raising the debt ceiling is what we usually do. We did it 3 times in the last presidency. But remember that big speaker fight we had back in January when McCarthy was having a hard time finding the votes to become speaker? Well, one of the promises he made to the holdouts was that he wouldn't ask them to raise the debt ceiling until he gave them a budget that would balance over the next 10 years. Here's the thing. That's not going to happen. The amount we're coming up short, it's a lot. You could cut the entire defense budget to 0, spend nothing on the military, and it still wouldn't balance the budget. You'd still have hundreds of billions to go. The idea that we could do this by finding a little over here and a little over there, folks, absolutely not. Not even close. If you notice, people who campaign on balancing the budget never tell you how they're going to do it, because if they did, it would probably upset the vast majority of you. But now, Speaker McCarthy has made a promise to pass a plan that does that. He also said it won't involve raising taxes on anyone and won't involve any cuts to Medicare or Social Security, which are the 2 programs we spend the most money on. He hasn't quite said no cuts to defense, but do we think he's going to propose big cuts to defense? Probably not. So if that's your starting point and you can't touch any of that stuff, then to balance the budget, you would almost have to zero out the entire rest of the budget, everything else we spend money on. Transportation, education, energy, science, environment, housing, border control, air traffic control, healthcare for 40 million children of low-income families. You could eliminate all of that, and you aren't even 2/3 of the way there. So here's where things stand. Speaker McCarthy needed some people in a very difficult moment, so he made them a promise that he won't be able to keep. And the question is, what happens then? Do those people flip out and blow this whole thing up and cause a default, which everyone agrees would be an economic disaster? Or can we sit down and figure this thing out in a way that is at least semi-realistic, preferably as soon as possible?
All right. So he explains it pretty well. I finally understood exactly what the debt ceiling is and things like that. And of course, the Republicans are using this as a weapon. And they think that this is going to be a great big huge flex for them. If they don't do it, then everybody else has to deal with the fallout. But it's all going to come down on them. Nobody's going to say the Democrats made you do this. So I'm kind of curious, are they really that stupid? Well, don't answer that. Yes, I know. But let's see. Let's see what the debt ceiling. Okay, so as a remote view, I just saw a picture of the debt ceiling and the Republicans pushing their cart, and they're like all happy with everything they got. Like, we got in here, look what we got in here. And they're pushing it up, and it goes up this hill, and all of a sudden it falls through a crack. And they all go, "Ah, what happened? What happened?" So they think that they had a whole bunch of weight in gold and power, and it falls through the crack. That's the scene that I just saw. So, and they all look like clowns. Like they have great big old huge feet. The clowns, they all are wearing clown outfits. That could be just my own personality putting that onto them, but that's the scene I saw. None of it helps. None of it works. So let's see what the cards have to say. Celebration, enjoying it, thinking they have all that they need, Mar-a-Lago, and we're doing this all for Trump. We're just so happy. Just so happy. And then we have the creative romance, the charming, the steady horse, the Empress, King of Pentacles, because they're in charge. Temperance comes in, going forward. Self-sufficiency. The Ace of Wands shows up. Kabam! Then the Page of Pentacles. Now, the Page of Pentacles is that opportunity, right? The opportunity to get that done. The world is watching, and bam, judgment is the outcome. So they do feel very comfortable with what they have in that. And so we have the 11th house, the Ace of Pentacles, meaning that it comes to the abundance comes there, and then they're not gonna get away with the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling is going to be raised, and we're going to be right back where we're supposed to, because they have to make a decision at this point in time, and the hard work that we have all done, and success. So I don't think that they are going to flatter themselves, but it's not going to work. It's not going to work, and they're going to have to raise it, and we're all going to move on with our lives after that. And all us Democrats get to laugh at them again. They give us so much. I watch Boebert, bobblehead Boebert, and then the Margarine make a of themselves so much, so much. And this has given us gold. So anyways, let's move on to Taiwan. Here's another cert from Rep. Jeff Jackson.
A few weeks ago, I told you that I had been assigned to the Armed Services Committee and that I would keep you posted. We're still very early, but I want to report back to you on what I've seen so far. And what I've seen so far is a strong focus on China, even before the balloon, specifically the situation with Taiwan. So here's the deal. Taiwan is a series of islands roughly 100 miles off the coast of China. About 70 years ago, there was a communist revolution in China. It toppled the government, which fled to Taiwan along with hundreds of thousands of civilian refugees, and they set up their own government there. Been that way ever since. We don't recognize Taiwan as a country. Very few countries do, but we still sell them a bunch of weapons to keep China from invading. Why do we do this? Partly because Taiwan is a democracy and China is not, so we've been political and cultural allies with Taiwan for a long time. But also because if China took over, it could threaten the stability of the whole region with major implications for security and trade. Needless to say, our position on this really angers China. They raise the issue constantly with American presidents, as they did last year when they told us not to play with fire regarding Taiwan. Which brings us to our first armed services hearing of the year. We heard that Taiwan knows that it can't keep up with China's military investment. China has about 2 million active soldiers. Taiwan has 170,000. China spends roughly 10 times what Taiwan does on its military, which is why the military talk is centered on the porcupine strategy. The idea is to help turn Taiwan into a very prickly target to make sure it is prepared to take a large toll on any country that may invade, hopefully so as to deter an invasion. That's why our recent weapons deals with Taiwan have been about mobility and precision. Stinger missiles, MQ-9 drones, Harpoon coastal defense missiles, high mobility artillery rocket systems. But we have not adopted a policy that says we will step in to defend Taiwan if China attacks. Our official policy is called strategic ambiguity, which technically means maybe we will, maybe we won't. That's our policy right now, and it has been since before I was born. At one of our hearings, a retired admiral was pushing us to adopt a new policy of telling China that we will step in if they invade. The upside of adopting a policy like that is that it could make invasion less likely by raising the stakes for China. The downside is that we would then have a greater risk of going to war with China. So it's a controversial proposal. What's clear is that as China has dialed up the heat on Taiwan, we have dialed up our commitment to their defense, including with high-profile shows of support. That's why the last speaker went. That's why the new speaker has said he's going. To understand other decisions we're going to make about China and Ukraine and other allies like the Philippines and Australia, you've got to understand this Taiwan piece. It's a very dense issue, and it's going to affect the orbit of everything around it for at least the rest of the decade. All for now. Take care.
Okay. I hope you're not tired of listening to him. I think he's perfect, great, wonderful, and explains everything. But I do want to read and see if China is going to make a serious move towards Taiwan and ignore the fact that we are connected to that. So let's see what China's arrogance really is. Then I'll let you go. Doggies involved in everything. At Sheila's house, you get doggies. Just how it is. Let's see. Ace of Swords, breaking through. Ugh. But what hinders them? Change hinders them. And it's like they want to, but something makes them creative opportunity, painful ending. So the creative opportunity is in its infancy because I have the Page of Cups, that creative opportunity at the base of it. And so they have this opportunity, this is creativeness, but they also have this at the top. They know this may hurt. They can't come up against the United States. I'm not saying that the United States wouldn't be damaged a little, but they're never going to win anything with the United States. I mean, there's one thing that we do have on our side. We have a powerful punch to anybody else in this world. It's true. And they know our punch. Coming into this, upside down, disconnect. Happy family, but the disconnection that they have with their ideas and what they want, it's a disconnect. They're not trying to be happy family. They're trying to sow discord and hurt the relationships of things. They're not doing very well. We got the Page of Swords going forward. King of Cups, this is my Biden. So this is really interesting how the United States shows up in Biden's words and what he says and what he's going through. He has a new idea. He knows what to do. I just got that. If China makes a move, we counteract, and he already has the plan. It's already involved, like celebration. It's almost like we have a 1, 2, 3 punch, and he knows what our punch is going to be. That's the reason why he understands. Biden has already told him what he's going to do. And that's how he knows. She knows. Interesting. The Tower. Do they make a move? They might make a move. I got the Moon. They're making moves, silent moves. They're making moves. Oh, he might. Oh, I don't know. I think he might. But he's going to be highly disappointed. But I think he's going to make a stupid move. That's what these cards are saying, that China is going to make a stupid move, even though they know the 1, 2, 3 punch that we're going to give them. Because they're going to, the Tower comes, that a silent, under the moon, the hidden enemy. Oh, China. Anyways, dang. Thank you, everyone. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for always being with me. I truly enjoy this. My access to my basement is limited. I am so sorry. I'm doing the best that I can, but here we are. If you guys don't mind me doing it up in my room in the corner with no flair, no decoration, then I'll be more than happy to do a few more readings for you guys. But I always feel like this is enjoyment. All right, enough of that. I am going to be on Cape. Hang on a second. Let me get this correctly. I am going to be with collaboration with Cape Cod again. I am also doing Nancy Jean's 9 candles, so I'll be also doing that. And then on the 16th, collaboration with Danny and Lori. So we have a lot coming up, lots and lots. So thanks everyone. Bye for now.